with our workforce planning for the Group Training Association, I think that the first thing is for our members to really understand the environment that they're now working in. We've had quite a number of changes from a policy level and a funding perspective. A lot of our members have also diversified into a range of other recruitment and employment areas. So getting them to understand that firstly, and then what that means for their future directions, what their current staff capabilities and skills are, and then identifying what their future needs are going to be, and then looking at whatever gaps and strategies that will be required to fill those gaps in the future. So, trying to get our members to understand that strategy, I guess, is quite important, developing some consistent tools and models that they can use, and then applying that to the rest of their organisations and the rest of the industry. So we're using a Moodle platform. The initial workshops will be a blended delivery. A lot of our members are still fairly new to the e-learning environment, so we're going to have a mixture of face-to-face workshops and some e-learning. We're using a Moodle platform. We're using Big Blue Button for some video conferencing. We'll be using forums and chat rooms and a number of other tools in terms of them providing that information. We were looking at using the wiki spaces or pages in terms of developing some templates that they could consistently fill in across the various organisations, and it would give us a way of reporting that information consistently. Learner evidence, I guess from an RTO perspective, I know part of this project we're doing pre and post surveys with the individual students. I think that will go a long way to understanding what their current needs are, what they thought worked really well in the program, what their expectations were, and then from an evaluation perspective, what worked and what didn't. And from an association, we'll get a lot of good information from that and hopefully improve our e-learning for our industry. From an association's perspective, we've been using e-learning now for 3 or 4 years. We've developed a number of resources for apprentices as well as for staff within our organisation. And again, it's just getting them a little bit more comfortable over time with things like forums and chat rooms and sharing that information in an aligned space. Big Blue Button is a new initiative that we're doing specifically for this project. So that'll give us the opportunity for webinar type interactions online. And then things like wiki pages, again, will be fairly new for this project specifically, where we'll be able to have some consistent ways of them reporting this information. I think it's certainly something a lot of our members are now getting more and more interested in, the way that the government are changing the funding models for a lot of the training. A lot of our members work regionally. Just about every young apprentice has a mobile phone or an iPad or all of that, so that the way they actually want to access information, the way they learn is quite different to traditional apprentice 15, 20 years ago. So our members are now starting to just embrace that technology and look forward in terms of what that might mean for their business. For this program, we're targeting CEOs, general managers and people at the senior management level within HR. We think it's quite important for our industry to target champions at that upper level of management, so then that can filter through the organisation. We've run other e-learning programs where we've targeted field officers and operational staff, and that's worked really well, but I think it's important now when we're dealing with workforce development and workforce planning that we get some buy-in from the senior managers within these organisations, and they can see the power of the e-learning tools that can be provided. I think with our e-learning strategy, ensuring that we do get that engagement with the CEOs and the general managers at that upper level, that'll ensure that it'll be filtered down to the next layer within these organisations, and then hopefully this information can be passed on to local host employers and small businesses that they're dealing with to assist them with their workforce development needs in the future. I think our organisation has been, it's been around for about 30 years. It was a government-funded initiative back in the 1980s. Most of our members have evolved and diversified into a whole range of things. From a workforce planning perspective, some of our members have done that really well and been able to identify the skills that they need and transition into certain other activities. But as a collective industry, I think the association sees a role that we can play, and we can certainly help our members doing more of this sort of work into the future as the environment continually changes. The steps we're using in our workforce planning are pretty basic. We're starting with what's the understanding of the context and the environment that our members are initially working in, then identifying the current staff needs, capabilities and skills, then looking at the future needs of the organisation and the skills and requirements that they'll have, identifying those gaps and the strategies then to complete or fill those gaps in with future staff and training as required.